"We're skipping your housewarming, your sister needs groceries," Mom's text message stated. I replied, "No worries." They had no clue my abode was a $4,500,000 mountain residence primed for a major TV feature. The moment it broadcast, my phone lost its mind. Can you imagine pouring your entire life into something, building an empire from nothing, only to have your own parents choose a grocery run over your biggest achievement? Because that's exactly what happened to me. They didn't just miss my celebration, they publicly shamed me, and the world watched it all unfold. My name is Grace, and for 31 years, I felt like a ghost in my own family. I grew up in a small town, the kind where everyone knows your business and gossip spreads like wildfire. I was the firstborn, which in any normal family might mean something. But for me, it just meant I was the practice run before my parents got the child they actually wanted. 3 years later, my sister, Brooke, arrived. And from that moment on, I became invisible. It's not bitterness I feel now, just a quiet, heavy resignation. Brooke was stunning. Delicate features, porcelain skin. Strangers would stop my mom just to gush about her. Me? I was plain, a bookworm, far too serious. While Brooke charmed her way through life, collecting friends like seashells, I buried myself in books, racking up scholarships and academic awards that no one in my family ever bothered to acknowledge. This story really kicks off with my housewarming party. I'd invited my parents a full 3 weeks in advance. Sent them the address, detailed directions, even offered to pay for their gas and for them to stay overnight. My mom gave me her usual distracted, "I'll think about it," that tone I knew all too well. My dad? He didn't even respond. Typical. Then, 6 hours before my guests were set to arrive, the text came. Brooke needed groceries. My 28-year-old sister, still living at home, never held a job for more than 3 months, completely reliant on my parents, needed groceries. And somehow, that mundane errand trumped the monumental occasion of me buying my first home. I walked through that house, running my hand over the cool granite, the custom woodwork I'd spent months meticulously selecting. This house, sitting on 12 acres of pristine mountain property, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a valley so breathtaking it made my heart ache every morning. This was mine. I'd worked relentlessly for this. 15 years of grinding through entry-level positions, saving every penny, building a real estate development career that blew past any modest expectation I'd ever had. This house? It was worth $4.5 million, and I'd paid for it entirely in cash. But my parents had no idea. How could they? They'd never once asked about my life in any meaningful way. In their minds, I was still the quiet daughter who left at 18, rarely visited. They probably thought I lived in some modest apartment, doing something with houses, as they vaguely explained to curious relatives. They'd never visited my office, never met my colleagues, never shown the slightest genuine interest in the empire I was methodically building while they poured every ounce of their attention and resources into Brooke. Here's the kicker. An HGTV production crew had arrived 3 days earlier. They were filming a special on luxury mountain homes, and mine was one of 3 estates chosen. I'd wrestled with telling my parents, picturing their shocked faces when they finally saw what their overlooked daughter had accomplished. But something held me back. Maybe it was stubborn pride, refusing to beg for their attention anymore. Maybe it was self-preservation after decades of disappointment. Or maybe, deep down, I just knew that even this remarkable achievement wouldn't be enough to tear their gaze away from their precious Brooke for more than a fleeting moment. My best friend, Megan, arrived an hour before the party, arms overflowing with flowers, her face etched with concern. We met in college, 2 fiercely ambitious women determined to conquer the world. She's now a successful architect and actually helped design parts of my home. Megan knew my complicated family situation better than anyone. When I silently showed her my mom's dismissive text, she just shook her head, that bone-deep weariness of someone who'd heard this exact story too many times. "They're not coming," she said flatly. Not a question. "Brooke needs groceries," I replied, my voice carefully neutral, even though inside I was crumbling. Megan set down the flowers, pulled me into a fierce hug. "They're tremendous loss, Grace. Look at this incredible place. Look at everything you've built. If they can't see your worth, that's their limitation, not yours. I nodded against her shoulder, swallowing the stubborn lump in my throat. She was right. Megan was always right. But knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally are two very different things. Part of me, that wounded little girl deep inside, still craved their approval with embarrassing intensity. Still wanted to be the daughter they celebrated, not the one they perpetually forgot. The afternoon light turned golden, and I knew the party would begin soon, without them. I grew up in a house where love was rationed like wartime supplies, and Brooke always got the bigger portion. I can't remember a single birthday where she didn't make it about herself. My 16th birthday? She threw a tantrum because she wanted my chocolate cake, even though her birthday was months away. My parents bought 2 identical cakes, turning my milestone into a joint event she completely dominated. High school graduation? Valedictorian, full scholarship to a prestigious university. Brooke complained about the boring ceremony, and we left early so she could go to a pool party. College was my escape. 6 hours away. Far enough. I worked 3 jobs, paid for everything not covered by scholarships. Refused their money because I knew it would mean owing them, keeping me tethered to a dynamic that was slowly suffocating me. I majored in business, specializing in real estate development. I loved the tangible nature of property, the way you could transform something neglected into something beautiful and valuable. My first job, I was the youngest, the only woman in leadership. I worked twice as hard, didn't mind. Hard work was familiar. Within 2 years, I closed more deals than anyone. Within 5, I ran my own division. By 30, I launched my own firm, specializing in luxury mountain properties. I was turning abandoned estates into multi-million-dollar dream homes. Meanwhile, my parents remained consumed by Brooke's endless crises. She bounced from job to job, quit dramatically, got fired. Boyfriends came and went, parents funded them, then consoled her. She moved back home at 23 and never left, perpetually figuring things out, while my parents paid for absolutely everything. The contrast between our lives was stark. Yet, somehow, I was always the one falling short. My first house at 26, a modest fixer-upper I renovated myself. My mom only hoped I wasn't neglecting my personal life. A prestigious business award at 28? My dad forgot to return my excited call. A $10 million development deal at 30? They were too busy helping Brooke through another breakup to attend my celebration dinner. I learned to stop sharing. It just hurt less than being met with crushing indifference. I built a rich, fulfilling life. Colleagues respected me. Friends showed up. Megan became the sister Brooke never was. But there was always that hollow ache inside, where unconditional parental love should have lived. That space remained painfully empty, no matter how much success I accumulated. The night before the party, I called my mom one last time. She was distracted, Brooke loudly complaining in the background. "We'll try our best, Grace," she'd said. Brooke hasn't been feeling well. At 28, Brooke not feeling well was still enough to derail any plans not centered on her. I should have known then. The text message confirmed it. They would always choose Brooke. Her laziness over my achievements. Her groceries over my celebration. Her comfort over my happiness. It was the pattern of my entire life. What they didn't know, what I had very deliberately kept from them, was that my modest little housewarming party was about to become extremely public. The HGTV episode featuring my estate was scheduled to air that very evening, right as my guests gathered in my great room. As I received that dismissive text about Brooke's grocery needs, something fundamental shifted. For the first time, I didn't feel the familiar sting of hurt. I felt something new, calm anticipation. They had chosen to miss this moment, like every other. But this time, they wouldn't be able to ignore it. This time, the entire world would see what they had stubbornly refused to acknowledge for 3 decades. And I was going to let them discover it completely on their own terms, without any warning. The party unfolded exactly as planned. 50 guests mingled beneath soaring ceilings, sipping champagne, admiring the panoramic views. The HGTV crew packed up, promising a spectacular episode. At 8 p.m., we all gathered in my media room, a luxurious space designed for exactly this. When the episode began, my guests erupted in cheers. There was my home, showcased in magnificent glory. The camera panned over mountain vistas, lingered on architectural details. The host spoke knowledgeably about its transformation and the visionary developer behind it. Then came my interview. I spoke passionately about architectural preservation, sustainable luxury development, my belief that every home should tell a story. I watched myself, poised and articulate, and barely recognized the woman on screen. She was everything I'd worked to become, everything my parents had never bothered to see. As the segment ended, and my guests applauded, I felt a strange, bittersweet mix of hard-won triumph and lingering sorrow. This was the moment I'd built toward. And the two people who should have been proudest were 4 hours away, buying groceries for a sister who couldn't lift a finger for herself. After the party wound down, I stepped onto my deck for a moment of quiet. The mountains were shrouded in darkness, but I felt their enduring presence. I'd built something remarkable here. But still, that persistent question haunted me. Why was I never enough for them? I posted a single red heart emoji to social media, then went back inside to accept congratulations, pretending their absence didn't matter. But something had fundamentally changed. The desperate little girl begging for scraps of attention had finally grown into a woman who refused to beg any longer. And somewhere, 4 hours east, my parents were about to discover the true cost of their casual indifference. The next morning, my phone exploded. Friends, colleagues, strangers, all congratulating me on the HGTV broadcast. My inbox flooded with inquiries, interview requests, collaboration offers. Validation, finally. But the messages I noticed most acutely were the ones conspicuously absent. My parents hadn't called. Brooke hadn't texted. 12 hours after national television, radio silence. Either they hadn't seen it, which seemed impossible given the promotion, or they'd seen it and simply didn't care. Both possibilities stung deeply. I spent the morning fielding calls, scheduling meetings. My professional life was suddenly thrilling, demanding. By noon, I had 3 meetings with major investors, an offer to consult on a resort project. All my hard work was finally paying off. Then my mother called. I stared at her name a long, uncertain moment. My gut told me this wouldn't be pleasant. But curiosity won. Grace, why didn't you tell us about any of this? Her voice was sharp, accusatory, not warm or proud. Tell you about what, exactly? The television show. That enormous house. We had no idea. Do you know how embarrassing it was for Dorothy next door to call us this morning and ask if we saw you on HGTV? We didn't even know what she was talking about. I sat down slowly. This was their reaction? Not pride, not congratulations, but embarrassment that they'd been publicly caught out of the loop. I invited you to the housewarming party, I said, my voice deliberately even. 3 weeks in advance. You chose not to come. You never told us it was going to be broadcast. The party wasn't on television, Mother. The house was. You would have seen everything if you'd just bothered to show up. Heavy silence stretched between us. I could almost feel her scrambling, trying to twist this into my fault. Your sister is very upset about all of this, she finally said, that familiar defensive edge creeping in. Of course. Brooke was always upset, and her feelings always trumped mine. Why, exactly, is Brooke upset? Because you've clearly been hiding your considerable success from the entire family. She feels deeply betrayed by your secrecy. I actually laughed. A sharp, bitter sound that surprised even me. She feels betrayed? I've invited you both to every significant event in my life for over a decade, and you've manufactured excuses to skip every single one. I stopped telling you about my accomplishments because you never cared enough to celebrate them. If anyone has a right to feel betrayed, it's me. That is simply not fair, Grace. We have always fully supported you in everything. Then name one specific thing you've actually supported me in. Just one. One graduation ceremony you attended. One award ceremony you showed up for. One professional milestone you acknowledged with any enthusiasm. I'll wait. More painful silence. You've always been so fiercely independent, she said, her voice noticeably smaller now. You never really seemed to need us for anything. I absolutely needed you. Desperately. I just eventually stopped showing that need because every single time I reached out, you chose Brooke instead. Yesterday was important to me, and you casually skipped it because she needed groceries. She's 28 years old, mother. She's capable of buying her own groceries. Your sister has her own struggles that you don't understand. Her struggles are that she's never had to try, because you do everything for her without question. That's not struggling, mother. That's being completely enabled by parents who refuse to let her grow up. I heard her sharp, offended breath. For a second, I thought she might actually hear me. But then her voice hardened, slipping back into that defensive tone that always emerged when anyone dared criticize precious Brooke. I don't appreciate being spoken to this way by my own daughter. Your father and I have always done our best for both of you. If you deliberately chose to keep your entire life a secret, that's your choice. But don't dare blame us for not knowing things you stubbornly refuse to share. The call ended. No resolution, no apology. I sat in my beautiful, expensive home, surrounded by the evidence of my success, feeling the familiar ache of being chronically misunderstood. But this time, something felt different. Usually, these calls left me drained, defeated, questioning if I was the problem. Today, I felt unexpected clarity. My mother had revealed her true priorities. And for once, I wasn't going to twist myself into knots trying to earn approval that would never come. I didn't call back. I didn't send a groveling text. I focused on my work, on the fulfilling life I'd built without them. If they wanted to be part of my world, they knew where to find me. I was done chasing. 3 days later, Brooke called. We rarely spoke without our parents mediating. Her voice was immediately hostile. You think you're so much better than everyone else, don't you? Hello to you too, Brooke. Mom told me all about your fancy mansion, being on national television, how you basically told her straight to her face that she was a terrible, neglectful parent. You made her cry, Grace. Is that what you wanted? To deliberately hurt our own mother. I took a slow, deep breath. Engaging with Brooke's drama was never productive. She thrived on conflict, on playing the victim. I simply told her the honest truth. If hearing the truth made her cry, maybe she should think about why. God, you are so incredibly self-righteous. Just because you have money now doesn't mean you're better than the rest of us. I have never once said I was better than anyone, Brooke. You didn't have to say it. You've been silently communicating it your entire life with your fancy scholarships, your impressive career, your holier-than-thou attitude. Some of us aren't as lucky as you, Grace. Some of us actually struggle with real problems. I closed my eyes, fighting the urge to list all the ways her struggles were self-inflicted. The jobs she quit, the relationships she sabotaged, the years she wasted living rent-free while contributing nothing. I was not lucky, I said, quietly but firmly. I worked incredibly hard for everything I have. There's a significant difference between luck and effort. Whatever. Mom and Dad are completely devastated by how you treated them. They think you must hate them for saying such cruel things. I don't hate them. I'm just exhausted from being their perpetual afterthought for 31 years. Brooke scoffed. Everything is always about you, isn't it? Your precious feelings, your accomplishments, your big, successful life. Did you ever stop to think about how this affects the rest of us? Now everyone in town knows you're wildly successful, and they're going to compare us unfavorably. Do you have any idea how that feels for me? For a long moment, I was speechless. The sheer audacity. She was upset because my success made her look bad. Not proud, not happy for her sister, but purely resentful that it highlighted her own lack of ambition. Maybe, I said, slowly and deliberately, instead of being upset that I succeeded, you could use it as motivation to finally do something meaningful with your own life. The phone line went dead. She'd hung up. I set my phone down, staring out at the mountains, trying to process it. My mother was crying because I told her the truth. My sister was angry because my success made her look bad. And somehow I was supposed to feel guilty. But I didn't. I felt something I hadn't expected. I felt free. The confrontation had stripped away the last illusions. They were never going to celebrate me. They were never going to acknowledge my accomplishments without making it about themselves. My mother would always prioritize Brooke. My sister would always resent my success. And my father? He'd remain the silent absence he'd always been. For years, I'd told myself if I just achieved enough, worked hard enough, they'd finally see me. But the television episode had proved it. No amount of success would change their perception. I would always be the afterthought. The freedom in accepting this painful truth was both liberating and devastating. I no longer had to chase their approval, but I also had to let go of the hope I might someday receive it. That hope had sustained me. Now it was extinguished, and I was left standing in the darkness, figuring out who I was without it. 2 weeks later, my life had returned to a semblance of normalcy. The initial wave of attention settled into a steady stream of opportunities. But something lingered from those confrontations, a restlessness. I'd drawn a line and they hadn't crossed it. The relationship was over unless something significant changed. And I knew that change wouldn't come from me. Then an unexpected message. My Aunt Patricia, my mother's older sister, reached out on social media. We hadn't spoken in years. Her message was brief, but intriguing. "Grace, I saw the HGTV episode. Congratulations. I have some important things I need to tell you about your family. Things that might explain a lot. Can we meet?" I stared at it. Patricia had always been kinder than my mother, though she kept her distance from family drama. If she was reaching out now, it meant something. I agreed to meet her at a quiet cafe. She drove 3 hours, looked nervous, but determined. "What I'm about to tell you should have been told years ago," she said, after small talk. "I argued with your mother repeatedly, but she refused. I've carried this guilt. When I saw you on TV, so successful and so clearly alone in that success, I couldn't stay silent." My heart raced. "What are you talking about?" Patricia looked down. "Your mother and I had different fathers. You know that. But what you don't know is that your grandmother heavily favored me, just like your mother favors Brooke. I was the pretty one, the easy one. Your mother grew up feeling invisible and unloved. She swore she'd never do that to her own children. But she did to you. When you were born, you looked exactly like our mother. Same features, same expressions. Your mother loves you, Grace. I truly believe that. But she also sees her own mother in you, the woman who made her feel worthless. She can't separate the two. So, she overcorrected with Brooke, determined never to make another child feel that way." I sat in stunned silence. My mother's neglect wasn't random favoritism. It was rooted in deep trauma, a wound so profound she'd transferred it onto her own child without realizing. "She punished me for looking like someone I never even knew," I finally said. Patricia nodded, tears in her eyes. "I should have told you sooner. But your mother and I had our own unresolved issues, and I let that prevent me from doing the right thing." "Why tell me now?" "Because I saw you on that show, a woman who succeeded despite everything. But I also saw someone who looked lonely. Someone who deserved to understand that she was never the problem. Your mother's inability to love you properly was never about you, Grace. It was always about her own broken heart." I didn't know what to do with this. Compassion for my mother's inner child. Rage that she'd inflicted her pain on me. And a strange sense of validation. I hadn't imagined it. There was a reason, even if it was deeply unfair. Patricia and I talked for hours, filling in family history, patterns of favoritism repeated across generations. She apologized for her silence, and I found myself forgiving her, though I wasn't entirely sure why. I drove home feeling different. The anger remained, but it was tempered with understanding. My mother wasn't a villain. She was a damaged person who had damaged me in turn. It didn't excuse her, but it explained her. The question was, what now? 6 months passed. The HGTV episode launched my career into a new stratosphere. Forbes list, national publications, a team of 12. Success was abundant. My parents remained absent. After Patricia's revelation, I'd half expected my mother to reach out, acknowledge the painful patterns. She never did. Brooke still posted bitter social media comments. My father remained a ghost. I found unexpected peace in their silence. Without the exhausting cycle of reaching out and being rejected, I could focus on my own growth and happiness. Megan had been right all along. Their inability to see my worth was a reflection of them, not me. I no longer needed their validation. I had my own belief in myself. The turning point came unexpectedly. A journalist, Caroline, writing about women in real estate, requested an extensive interview. The article would be in a prestigious national magazine. I agreed, thinking it would be standard promotional material. But Caroline wanted more. She wanted to understand the person behind the success. I found myself sharing things I'd never discussed publicly: the family dynamics, the isolation, the determination forged from pain. The housewarming, my parents' absence, the HGTV episode, the confrontations. It sounds like your success is a form of revenge, Caroline observed thoughtfully. I considered this. Not revenge, exactly, I corrected. More like proof. Proof that their dismissal of me was wrong. Proof that I was always capable of more than they believed. The article published 2 months later. The response was overwhelming. Women from across the country reached out, sharing similar stories. I'd touched a nerve. My story was bigger than just me. My parents saw the article. This time, they couldn't avoid it. Mutual acquaintances made sure they knew. The exposure was national, the story detailed and deeply personal. Everything I'd kept private was now public record. There was nowhere for them to hide. My mother's call came 3 days after the article published. I almost didn't answer. Her voice was different, smaller, uncertain. Grace, we need to talk about that article. What about it? You made us look terrible to everyone. People in our town are talking. Our neighbors, our church friends, everyone knows. They read what you said about us. I felt the old familiar pull, the instinct to apologize, to smooth things over. But I pushed it aside. Everything I said was completely true. You missed my housewarming for groceries. You never came to my graduations. You always prioritized Brooke. I didn't make you look terrible, Mother. I simply described what happened. You don't understand how hard it was for me, she said, voice cracking. Raising 2 children, trying to do right by both of you. I know I made mistakes, but I tried my best. Your best was not good enough. And instead of acknowledging that, you're calling to complain about how the truth makes you look. Silence. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, I'm sorry. 2 words. 2 words I had waited my entire life to hear. I let them hang in the air, feeling their weight, testing if they changed anything. They didn't. An apology after 31 years, prompted only by public embarrassment, wasn't the reconciliation I'd once dreamed of. It was damage control. Thank you for saying that, I replied carefully. But I need you to understand something. I'm not angry anymore. I don't hate you. But I also don't trust you. You've shown me throughout my entire life where your priorities lie, and they have never been with me. One apology forced by public pressure doesn't change that. What do you want me to do? I want you to think about whether you actually want a relationship with me, or whether you just want to repair your reputation. Because I'm not interested in being your daughter only when it's convenient or makes you look good. If you want to be part of my life, you need to show up consistently, celebrate my successes, and treat me like I matter. If you can't do that, then please, leave me alone. I ended the call feeling something unexpected. Not triumph, not sadness, but closure. I had said what I needed to say, set boundaries I should have set years ago. Whatever happened next was up to her. The fallout continued for weeks. Brooke posted a lengthy social media response, calling me a liar, which only drew more attention to the article. Friends of my parents reached out privately, confirming everything I'd written. The community I'd grown up in was finally seeing what had been hidden in plain sight. Their reputation was permanently altered. Their carefully constructed image of the perfect family shattered. The grocery run that had seemed so important that day now stood as a symbol of everything they'd gotten wrong. My mother attempted to rebuild, awkwardly at first. Birthday cards. Occasional calls. It was stilted, uncomfortable, but it was effort, and I acknowledged that, even if I couldn't fully trust it. My father remained silent. Some people never change. Brooke oscillated between hostility and politeness. It wasn't the family reconciliation I'd once fantasized about, but it was something. A beginning, perhaps, or at least an acknowledgement that the old patterns couldn't continue. The final moment of clarity came a year after the housewarming party, at the grand opening of my newest project, a boutique mountain resort. It was covered by regional media, attended by industry leaders. My mother came. Alone. She walked into the event, found me, hugged me, and told me she was proud. She asked for a tour. It was a small gesture, but it was everything I'd ever wanted. Recognition, presence. I showed her around, explaining my vision. She listened, asked questions, genuinely interested. On a terrace overlooking the valley, she turned to me, tears in her eyes. "I wasted so many years," she said. "I can't get them back, and I can't fully explain why I did what I did, but I'm here now and I want to do better." I nodded. Not quite ready to forgive, but willing to allow the possibility. Healing would take time if it happened at all. But for the first time, I believed it might be possible. Brooke, finally facing the reality that our parents couldn't shield her forever, enrolled in community college and started working part-time. My mother joined a therapy group. My father became quieter, more withdrawn, as if the public accounting of his absence had finally registered. The community that once saw only a polished surface now understood the uncomfortable truth. As I stood on the deck of my mountain home, watching the sunset paint the peaks in orange and gold, I reflected. The revenge I sought was never about destroying my family. It was about being seen. The HGTV episode, the article, they weren't weapons wielded with malice. They were mirrors, reflecting back to my family exactly what they'd refused to see for 31 years. I had built an extraordinary life, filled with purpose, beauty, and people who genuinely loved me without conditions. And I had done it without their help, their support, or their belief. The greatest revenge wasn't public exposure or a reckoning. It was the peace I finally found within myself. The unshakable knowledge that I was worthy of love and recognition, regardless of whether they ever chose to provide it. My future stretched before me, bright with possibility. And for the first time in my entire life, I was walking toward it without looking back, without hoping they would follow, and without needing their approval to feel complete. Call to action. This journey taught me so much about self-worth and setting boundaries. But it was incredibly painful. Have any of you ever had to draw a line in the sand with family, even when it hurt? What did you do, and how did it change things for you? I'd really love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below.